Good day, South Africa. South Africa is in the midst of an unprecedented third wave of the COVID-19 spread, which is created by a new, most dangerous variant named the Delta. The strain is the reason that South Africa has recorded close to 40% of the entire continent of Africa's number of COVID-19 fatalities at 60,647, including the highest number since the onset of the virus of excess deaths at 176,700. The Delta consists of an enzyme type of protein which activates the COVID-19 spike protein into its more boosted infectivity level, in a similar way in which the human immunodeficiency virus, or the HIV, is activated. With the incidence of being subjected to such a deadly variant of virus, the South African government is in no position to tolerate any form of under-expenditure in its budgetary activities and should act accordingly to ensure efficiency in its austerity measures. Being unable to settle payments for which they are liable has been normalcy in our health department, just as in 2017 when the Gauteng Health Department owed the National Health Laboratory Services, or NHLS, 696 million rands, prompting this national government agency's 5,000 workers to go on strike on the basis of seeking satisfactory salaries for their labor. 2 years subsequent to that, the Gauteng Health Department underspent its total budget for the 2018-19 financial year by 631,407,000, despite having a list of duties of which they fell short of executing. As Africa's financial capital, with a projected GDP of 5.4 trillion rands for the 2021 and 22 financial year, South Africa shouldn't be experiencing a shortage of funds or expenditure on COVID-19 related matters. The 10.3 billion rands allocated to vaccine procurement for the 2021-22 fiscal year should be utilized in its totality, especially since we're facing an epidemic which stands to devastate our population beyond any level ever experienced. The DA is also appealing for the usage of Tito Mbowene's 24th of February 2021 budget speech proposition of a contingency reserve for this financial year's purchasing of vaccines and emergency provisions, which has been increased to 12 billion rand. Having the state president Cyril Ramaphosa placing Health Minister Zweli Mkhize on, quote, special leave, unquote, last month pending investigations of unfair competition in his department's procurement processes, the acting minister Mamoloko Kupai has inherited the responsibility to ensure that the statutes are adhered to within her department by monitoring her subordinates, as the National Health Act No. 61 of 2003's Chapter 3, Section 21, Subsection 3, A and B 1 states in that, quote, Subsection 3, A, the Director General must prepare strategic medium-term health and human resources plans annually for the exercise of the powers and the performance of the duties of the National Department. B, the national health plans referred to in paragraph A must form the basis of 1. The annual budget as required by the national department responsible for finance and state expenditure, unquote. It is the lives of the tax-paying, law-abiding citizens of South Africa which are at stake if the committed funds aren't duly and appropriately transacted. Jordan Hill-Lewis, DA Shadow Minister of Finance, is urging the Finance Department to utilize this year's expropriated funds before it's too late. Violence has erupted in the rural land of Eswatini, with the local residents seen to be taking to the streets in their masses in an attempt to protest for democracy and rights, virtues which they claim that the government isn't observing. Soldiers have been deployed by the state to the cities of Manzini and Babane for crowd control purposes, including an imposition of a curfew in line with COVID-19 regulations. What served to spark the fury was the suspension of the acceptance of petitions from citizens by Prime Minister Themba Masuku, describing the protesters' behavior as being anarchical and seeking to, quote, sow seeds of division, unquote. having South Africa and Eswatini's austerities being inextricably linked, since both are a part of the Multilateral Monetary Area, or the MMA, whose allegiance lies in the Southern African Customs Union, or SACU. The present happenings in this absolute monarch will impact our economy directly. What's needed now is a sense of urgency which must show the lessons learned by our Department of International Relations and Cooperation, or DIRCO, from 7 years ago when its former minister Maitenkwana Mashabane dealt with the attacks on the Rwandan spy chief and former military general, which led to 6 of our diplomats being expelled from Rwanda. A year subsequent to that, Minister Nkwana Mashabane's DIRCO task was to meet with African ambassadors from the Democratic Republic of Congo, or the DRC, while also our fellow members in the African Union, or AU, to address xenophobic attacks in our urban environments, and that experience should be referred to in today's debacle involving another AU member. We need not repeat the same inaction which led to the unnecessary conflict in the Gambia in January 2017, where the former president, Yahya Jammeh, did not accept the results of the democratic suffrage process and refused to relinquish his position of power. After the number of protesters who have been shot and in need of hospitalization 6 days ago was tallied at 28, the Eswatini United States Embassy has reported that, quote, deadly force by security forces had been used, while the communications in the country are, quote, expected to degrade as internet service providers have been told to shut down, unquote. South Africa's activities are halted due to the civil unrest in Eswatini, as we supply this country with 90% of its imports, while 70% of its exports are destined for our borders. As fellow MMA stakeholders, Eswatini is subject to our International Trade Administration Commission's duties of being monitored, including having the Commission, as per the International Trade Administration Act No. 71 of 2002's Chapter 3, Part B, Section 20B, 2, quote, to provide technical assistance or expertise to an entity of SACU or the national body of a member state, unquote. While the Eswatini Prime Minister Masuku has assured the citizens of Eswatini and the international community that the situation will be under control, the South African government will have to step up to ensure a stability of our customs duties inflow. Darren Bergman, Member of Parliament and DA Shadow Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, is calling on DIRCO to use its position as the stewards of the customs duties and excise taxes generated revenue, which goes into the National Revenue Fund, to make a positive difference. Thank you. I'm looking for a punching bag, can't believe these dudes are volunteering. My sound hits them harder than just normal speakers blaring. Keep your eyes fixed on the road ahead, diffuse fearing. Want a hot track, I can serve it up. Hot chicks, I can bring you up. All you player haters leaving chicks irritated.